there are a few songs though. Like I have a playlist on my phone, Deftones, Kanye, Tate McRae, just like songs to pump me up before I hit the stage. But that's really it for pre-show.
That was like the widest range of stuff. I was like, you said Deftones and Tate McRae. And I was like, okay. Today we have John Segreto in the studio, and it is an honor to have you here talking about the upcoming Mercury Lounge show and finally getting to have a conversation here. But I kind of want to start by talking like really quickly. I feel like the first time I met you, I didn't really meet you. I got to hear your band at the Brookfest of 2024. I think the first time we interacted was when I put out my second album, and you were kind enough to interview me for that album. And I think from then on, I started observing something in you that I admire so much, which is just your really sharp ability to ask good questions. So I want to ask you a question about that. How do you feel that that skill of yours has impacted your songwriting, whether it's by yourself or with other people?
Already fantastic question right off the bat. I love this. Yeah, I mean, it's not a skill that everyone has. Asking good questions is something that I think everyone kind of takes for granted, but especially when it comes to the local scene or interacting with a lot of musicians, I think that's why I do tend to like really get off on the right foot with a lot of people instantly. And when it comes to the songwriting process, I think having that ability outside of my instrument, a lot of my skills, I think, and where I'm strong, those areas where I'm strong, it's being a curator and a creative overseer.
Right.
It's almost like I'm a walking filter where like we kind of put everything in and then I'm kind of able to like make everything come out in a certain way. Like if there's vocal ideas and stuff, I'll ask, what are you trying to communicate here with like this rough vocal idea? I apply it in any way to the creative process that I can.
Right. Yeah. And I've seen your band a couple times in various, very different scenarios. I'll kind of list. The first time I saw your band properly, when I kind of knew you, was when you were out in a field in Stony Brook.
Yeah.
It was on the steps, the stairs. What is it called?
Staller Steps.
The Staller Steps. The steps. I was right the first time. And then the second time I saw your band was also in a field. It was in Tompkins Square Park.
Oh yeah.
It was just I've seen your band in like two outside kind of scenarios. So I think it's really cool to see kind of how versatile your band is in terms of like we can play music anywhere, and that's not something I feel like I can do in terms of like my music. It's like I feel like some of my music needs to be played indoors.
Sure.
But how do you feel like you guys approach like building a set for whether it's outdoors or indoors? Like what's the first thing that you guys are thinking about when you get the gig?
Well, I think the easy thing for us is that a lot of our music is just high energy and stuff. So when we're able to like play these shows outside Tompkins Square Park or on the stairs at Stony Brook, we don't necessarily need crazy lights or crazy visuals because a lot of the music that we're playing already does the heavy lifting. We did a gig probably October on the same Staller Steps. It was a tribute show for Ozzy. Oh. And that was the first time I've seen people like moshing like crazy to our band, and it was at night too. So that's what I'm saying, you don't really need crazy anything when the music that we're playing is pretty fast and aggressive,
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, no, it's something that I think it's really cool to see. I think it's something that you really have to build yourself towards, like being able to have that stamina to play in that kind of energy for so long.
It's tough. Like before Brookfest, was it 23 or 24?
It was 24.
24. Yeah. So before Brookfest, like I was already hitting the gym, but I was really making sure to like focus a lot on my stamina. Because anyone who sees me perform, like they know I go crazy when I perform live. So I always take like my cardio training really seriously. It's a lot tougher than you think, honestly, when you're running around stage for half an hour, 45 minutes going crazy.
Yeah. Do you have a pre-show ritual, post-show ritual?
So this is what's funny. Early days of the band, I used to meditate, and like I picked it up during COVID. Meditating helped me like crazy. Yeah. But I realized if the music that I'm playing is all the way up here and I'm meditating and bringing myself all the way down here, there was a really big disparity in like what was going on almost. Like I was almost too chilled out for what we were doing. So now, if you're a vocalist, you probably wouldn't enjoy my pre-show ritual, but I have a few drinks and socialize and get ready to do my thing. There are a few songs though, like I have a playlist on my phone, Deftones, Kanye, Tate McRae, just like songs to pump me up before I hit the stage, but that's really it for pre-show.
That was like the widest range of stuff. I was like, you said Deftones and Tate McRae. And I was like, okay. Yeah, no, I have like I had a similar thing where I was like, I need to be calm before a show.
Right.
And then I realized I was like way too, so I was like, I was the same as you. I was like, wait, I found the calm, and then I found the too calm.
Yeah.
And then I just went on stage and I was like bored. And I was just like,
yeah.
You know, I'm just going on, I'm like too chill. I need to be a little bit, the heart needs to pump a little bit.
It's difficult to like really feed off of energy when you're almost in that too calm state.
Yeah.
You know.
Tell me about that kind of road from playing your first shows to writing with the band and then expanding that. Like what does expanding look like for you in that sense? We've
grown so much in the last like year and a half since I joined. It's really crazy. I mean, the guys, like, they had a lot of demos written and stuff, but they didn't have a bassist, so they never played live shows. So once I joined, a lot of time, and I do miss this time because it was very like humble, starting off small. We would just be in the rehearsal room like for hours a week, like really refining these demos and stuff, and like, you know, we got to be like in a good enough spot to play live. And Brookfest really was our first actual show.
Okay.
And I did not think we were going to get in, honestly. I was looking for people to play with, and it was still pretty fresh for me. I didn't actually know how I felt about a lot of the material at first. I don't know if I'm humble or I always try to be realistic, but I wasn't as ambitious back then in terms of what I know I can achieve. I didn't think we were going to get into Brookfest. So our first show playing to a sold-out basketball arena on campus, I think, really drilled into my head that if the ambition's there, it can be done. So from there, I mean, just kept booking shows and rehearsing. We've grown a lot, and I think for the future, we have a lot of plans. I mean, we want to expand more into the city, which this is going to be a good first step, our show on the 19th.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of people.
This is your first show in Manhattan?
Yeah. We've just kind of done Ridgewood at Bridge and Tunnel Brewery.
Bridge and Tunnel Brewery, yeah. I remember I was there.
There's a lot of people out here that, you know, I want to become more buddy with. Like Dakota was great getting to fill in with them.
Yeah.
Would love to pick his brain apart a little bit more. I think there's a lot of stuff waiting for us out here in the city, and that's where expansion is looking like for now for Razabel.
Cool. Yeah. No, it's definitely a just seeing you guys and where you've come has been really inspiring to me, just because I feel like I wasn't really following you guys, especially after Brookfest. I was like, there were so many bands there.
Yeah.
Our good friends Chronic Delta were there.
Mm-hmm.
They were awesome. And I remember seeing them, and I remember seeing you guys, because when I walked in to the arena for the first time, you guys were sound checking. And I'll always remember that, not because I heard your music, but because you guys were wearing masks. And I was like, what is this? And then I walk in, and then it was pretty awesome. But then I remember then Abik was telling me about, this guy John from Razabel, and I was like, well, I have no idea which one of them it was. Yeah. Because they were all wearing masks.
What wound up happening was we had rehearsal time booked in the drum room.
Yeah.
He was leaving right when we were going in, and I recognized him. There's no other brown dude playing drums at Brookfest. I instantly recognized him. I'm like, yo, dude, let me get your number, man. Like, I loved you guys so much. Like, do you have any shows coming up? Let me get your number.
Yeah.
The rest is history.
Networking.
Yeah.
Networking.
One-on-one.
Yeah.
Between, like, you, Collidescope, Koi, I always hear everyone talk about Merc Lounge.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what makes Merc Lounge a special venue for you guys? I've heard about it so much.
Yeah, I think so. In summer of 2023, I went to see this band that I really liked, who I've seen in like 1,000 cap rooms and 2,000 cap rooms, and they play Mercury Lounge. I was like, okay, this is gonna be another one of those. And then I walked in, and it was so small that I felt claustrophobic. Yeah. And I looked it up, and the capacity was like 250. And I was front row, and my favorite band was playing. It was this band called Valley, and I have their poster. You can't see it, but their poster's up there. And I was like, wow, this is crazy, and I would love to play here someday. Lo and behold, the next month, matter of minutes, our friends from another local band books that venue, and we were like, it's possible, right? It was that big moment of like, we've been playing so many smaller venues just around the city. We've been playing street fairs and stuff. Never anything like real. I would call them real, but I wouldn't call them like real in the sense that like there was some real sense of prestige with Mercury Lounge that was very different. And I remember seeing Matter of Minutes there. I went there, and again, it was just months and months of like, we want to play here, you know, and like, it was a dream for so long. And then one day, just from connections, I got the booking email, and I just wrote them an email. I was like, please let us play here. And he wrote back, like after like a week of nothing, I was like, this can't be anything.
Yeah.
He wrote back, and I was like, whoa, there's something here, right? And then, so I think finally getting to play that was like, it was the first time that I felt like we've made it in some sense. And I think that when I've spoken about this to the band a little bit, but I feel like when we go to Madison Square Garden one day, it will feel like we've totally made it, but it won't feel as big as I feel like when we walked on Mercury Lounge for the first time.
Sure.
Because we've never had anything up until that point. That was like our first real thing. So I think Madison Square Garden will be huge, but we will have done stuff leading up to that will have desensitized us a little bit, and I feel kind of sad about that.
Yeah.
But that's just how it's going to be, right? I think that leading up to that, we may have, like, for example, we played Stony Brook, which is like, you know, a fraction of Madison Square Garden, but it's somewhere in that kind of scale, right? To get to Madison Square Garden, you have to play so many things to get up there, right? For Mercury Lounge, it was like we played some clubs, and then we played some street fairs, and then like the second year of being a band, we hit Mercury Lounge, and that was like a really inspiring thing for me, for sure.
I feel that, 'cause, I mean, it sounds like Razabel's Brookfest moment, like, especially first show ever, you know, just from rehearsal, that was really our first big thing. The desensitizing, though, is very real, because I mean, you know, Mercury Lounge, it's, especially for us, first time playing there, like, that's a huge thing. But kind of like you said, you know, we've done so much stuff leading up to it that's great, but like that first initial, wow, we've never had anything, and now we're here. I feel that. How long were you guys a band up until that point?
That point?
Yeah.
Like 8 months.
Okay.
And it was like in February and of 2024. We started somewhere in 2023 and really started, but that was like the first time we started becoming serious. I think we were like, okay, this is not something, because we had done a lot of like DIY shows and stuff up until that point. So I think it was the first time we were like, you know, we were on Ticketmaster for the first time. So we could finally tell our parents, you know, and like all our parents came to the show, all our friends. It was the first time that I think a huge group of our friends came to the show. Before, it was like a bunch of guerrilla marketing, putting posters up on the wall, like, please come to the show. It's like in this cafe somewhere. You know, I'm not saying that was a bad show. That was like an incredibly important show for us, because that was the foundation for leading us up to where we were at that point. But Mercury Lounge, like, I remember going outside and seeing a line around the block. For us, it was the first time I'd ever experienced that.
How did you guys prepare for that first big Merc show? Because like talking to you in the past, I know you say, you know, I'll watch like 1975 sets or Haley Williams.
I have the same question for you actually, but I mean, but I think for that show, we had no idea what to expect. By the second time we played Mercury Lounge, I knew exactly what I was going for, and every time I just try to experiment a little bit more at Mercury Lounge, I think. But it's, I think, a venue where it sounds really professional, and I can bring a lot of the stuff that I hear live and I'm really inspired by, all these concerts, and I can kind of like, I watch a lot of concerts and I try to replicate something of the sort for that particular show. So for this particular show, I wanted to kind of feel like a video game starting, and then the journey of a video game, and then it ends kind of in the midpoint of the video game, and it's like a cliffhanger. But I know that's spoilers for the show, and I don't know if anybody will actually capture that feeling, but and it's all interpretive. So, but what about you? Like, what is kind of like, because I think I asked you this before too, but when you now that you're approaching a Mercury Lounge set, how are you approaching this differently than Bridge and Tunnel Brewery? Not putting these on a pedestal, but how is it different?
This is probably our first show that, like you said, feels real. You know what I mean? Because on Long Island, it's kind of like whichever dive bars will take you and let you play there. Sometimes they have a stage, sometimes they don't. We're not at the point yet where we can play the Merc Lounge of Long Island, which is Amityville Music Hall.
Okay.
We're hoping to be there, though, for our EP release show, for what we're working on now. But yes, this is our first one that felt real. So I really sat down and thought to myself, how can I make a production out of this, right?
Yeah.
Especially the visuals. I don't want to just have visuals for the sake of it. I want something to kind of accompany the mood of the songs that we're playing in the set. And this is a big occasion for us too. And I remember when I was planning the set list, I texted in the group chat, we have to do a set we've never done before.
Yep.
Like, just go crazy, because we spent the whole summer supporting Unravel, played the EP to death. So this whole entire set, minus the noise sound, is completely unreleased material.
So all new stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of stuff that we're playing live for the first time too. So like a lot more preparation, rehearsal went into this. Really wanted to make sure too, like, can our set really fit within the half hour?
Yeah.
Because DIY at Long Island, everyone's running over. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like we're like, yeah, our set's gonna be a calm 30 minutes, a calm 32, if that.
That's good.
So a lot more preparation went into this, and I think it's gonna pay off in terms of the quality of the performance we're gonna give.
So to add on top of that, because I feel like what you just said was like talking about how you were like texting the group chat with all these like ideas and stuff.
Yeah.
I kind of see you as like the visionary of like the concept of what Razabel is.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about what the other band members and what their strengths are and what they bring to the band. Because I feel like every band has that, where if you don't have that and one person's carrying everything, then it's not going to work. But it seems that everybody's kind of bringing something to that band. So tell me about that.
Yeah, we all bring like really different things to the table, and that's why I think we work, even when it comes to music taste too. Like, between the four of us, there's maybe only two bands that we can all collectively say, yeah, like, we enjoy these bands. So we have vastly different music tastes, and I think the way that translates into how we approach our parts is very different. How Pardini writes drums might be different than how, you know, Covey, our guitarist, had like drum parts in his mind when he wrote this demo like a year ago, right? Because for this EP, there's a couple like older stuff that we're revisiting, and the way Pardini is approaching these drum parts is a little bit different. Covey is an excellent writer. I don't know any other guitarist like him. It's insane what he does, and we're actually considering bringing in another member just to take some of these leads off of his shoulders.
Right,
Like, his guitar parts are crazy. Guga, I don't know anyone as productive as him when it comes to writing. Like, we're sitting on like 20, 30 demos, and usually I know a lot of bands' lyrics are tough. Guga, English major, journalism minor, so he has a way with his words and stuff. They're not just lyrics on a page, like, they're actually an image in your head. Because of him and how productive he is, demo. Yeah, I wrote to this.
Yeah.
We're all very productive in different ways. You know, if I'm more creative, like Guga and Covey, they're more productive in like the speed and efficiency. And Pardini, it's the way he approaches parts. Like, we all bring something different, obviously.
So what's the filtering process when you have 30 demos and you're like, so what makes a good Razabel song that you guys are like, we're gonna play this?
I think, well, see, what's funny is we could all say we have a different definition of what makes a Razabel song good. For me personally, and my tastes, I like pushing ourselves. And when I was just a music fan and not a musician, I wasn't always open-minded to when artists did something incredibly different, right? I was like, this is not your normal sound, and I don't know how I feel about it. But now as a musician, it's like I want to keep pushing myself, you know? So almost the style that we have on Unravel, I feel, is different, and not everyone is doing something like that. Long Island is very like grunge gaze focused. There's like two big local bands that everyone's just kind of copying the sound of because they're big right now. But I think the music we make, there's like just the bare minimum amount of stuff for it to be mainstream accessible. Just the bare minimum, right? I feel like a metalhead can enjoy our show. Someone who's not into metal or heavier music could probably walk away enjoying a few songs and stuff. And I wanna take that, see what made Unravel work, and maybe do some more experimentation, like some noisy shoegaze stuff, or just very noise influence.
No, that's kind of exactly what I'm going for now. It's like what made my past music work
without repeating it.
Exactly. There was like someone who was like talking about this analogy of like we're like on an island and we're trying to find like more land and more food and more supplies. Otherwise, we're gonna have to keep going back to this same island that has food. But we're like that this is like we're looking for something new, right? This can't last us forever. This can last us for a little bit, and we keep eating at our supplies that we have now. One day will be gone. Right. So I think it's this really delicate dance of like how do you keep something that's familiar to people, but also like this is new and this is cool and this is fresh.
Right.
So,
Like for our EP that we're recording right now, at first, it was pretty tough for me to confidently say that I know this material is going to be fantastic and loved when it comes out, because for this, we decided to go in a heavier direction. Yeah. And I don't really listen to a lot of heavier music anymore. Yeah. And I think that's also what makes my creative input in the band a lot more unique. Like I said, the last thing I want to do is like lump us into the generic metal scene, but it's how we're approaching these heavier songs and the way that we're, choosing cool harmony over here. Let's try this little weird part, where it then makes me think, it's like we're taking something that's been done a million times before, but we're going to put our own Razabel spin on it. Rings of Saturn, very like ambient metal almost. It ends with a pretty cool breakdown, but it's a pretty clean toned ambient song for most of the time. Yep. If you like have a pot of water and you boil it and the water gets to the bottom of the pot, it's pretty much a breakup song, like at its core, but the way that it's written, it's not so much like what you've heard before. Yeah, like it goes more into the themes of like, I guess, changing yourself for a person. Like Unravel, all about escapism, right? In the ways that I guess we kind of retreat into our minds to cope with certain things. Antmill's a little bit of a heavier song, and it was kind of written about going against like societal expectations, whether it be
that
like,
was a single, right?
Yeah. Like going against societal expectations as a career. And Guga used the imagery of an antmill to express that, and that's when the queen ant, she leaves behind these chemicals and all the ants follow her. Yeah. But when she dies, there's no chemicals to follow, so the ants just keep following each other endlessly. Yeah. Noise Sound, which has become my favorite, and it seems to be the fan favorite too. I'm going to be real, I don't know what that one's actually about, because lyrics usually come last for us. Pretty often we'll be workshopping songs in rehearsal, and there have been times where we play a live show, and that's my first time like hearing what it sounds like with vocals. Yeah. I don't know what Noise Sound is about, but Guga's imagery like stirs up some pretty cool things like in my mind when I think about that song. And in my box, I've always said I felt it's more in line with like 2000s emo or post-hardcore music. It kind of ties all the themes together. It's about retreating into your head, and he's used like this character of the narrator and imagery of the box, and the box is like supposed to be your mind, like retreating into your box or whatever. I still go back to it. I love it. I'm happy with what we did with Unravel, and I think it opened a lot of doors for us, and I'm excited for the next era. Yeah.
No, and I'm excited too, but like now that you guys been through the whole process, right? It's been from like idea to Spotify. Yeah. All these little stages. What's the stage you dread the most? Like, is it the mixing? Is it the writing? Is it like, because there's parts that we love and there's always parts that we dread, so.
That's a good question. I feel like there's parts here and there for every process that, not that I dread, but I know it's going to be difficult. Yep. In a band, you always make compromises, right? Especially for me, I'm not so much a fan of heavier music anymore. Yeah. So maybe there will be certain things where I'm just not so confident that, like, this is a good part right here. That's part of the creative process, though. Yeah. The mixing, though, I think we all dread for different reasons. Like, for us, it's very easy to overthink things, I think. But the more experience we have, the better we become at it, and like it's almost the same thing with the creative process here. Unravel was a very, not chaotic, but it was a pretty like long creative process. Like bass parts were recorded pretty early on. It was shelved for 6 months while we waited for the mixer to finish with his client. But we learned how to work together pretty cohesively. Yeah. So like every project of ours, I think we keep learning, and it's less things to dread or not look forward to,
Well, here's something that just popped in my head that I want to ask you now. I think compromise, because you're talking about that, right? When I started my band and when I started getting into bands, we were much younger than what you guys are now when you just started Razabel. So how do you feel like age plays into how easy it is to compromise with a group of people? Because I feel like a group of people who are like older and maybe you guys are heading out of college and stuff like that, and do you feel like life experience helps you if you find the right people? Say the same amount of people that age would play into that. Maturity plays into how you and makes it easier or harder, or do you feel like there's no really correlation?
Like they say, can't teach an old dog new tricks, but I don't think we're really stuck in our ways. Yeah. Like we have a pretty democratic process. I mean, like there's been a few songs where like, you know, I'll have an idea, maybe Google will have an idea, and we're not necessarily seeing like eye to eye on it, and we'll just kind of do like a equal vote. You know, if it's 3-1, whatever. If it's 2-2, then like we'll just, I guess, find compromise if it's like a equal vote. But I think it also feeds into like what we write about too. Like I'm a little older than the rest of the guys. I'm turning 24. I think Pardini's the youngest. I think he's 19, 20. But like we're all like young adults, early 20s and stuff. And I think it made sense for us to go in a heavier direction, even though I wasn't really expecting that at first. Like we've all been through a lot of things as young men in our early 20s, graduating college, enter the real world and stuff. So I think also enough things happened to us in our personal lives where it influenced the direction we went in musically. So the age thing helps a lot. As much as sometimes like we will have to have creative discussions about maybe we should do this. I don't know. Let's try and take it in this direction. Let's compromise. But like I said, also the stuff that we write about, we're not writing about nothing, you know, like we were writing about like pretty like mature real world stuff. I feel like
I feel like when I work with older people, it's easier just because they've been through all that, and it's a little bit more, you know, like they've been through the whole song and dance of like compromising and working with people. But at the same time, I see where you're kind of saying where it's like it could be possible where you've experienced all this and you know what you want, and it makes it harder for you to collaborate with people. So I guess it's just it depends on the group too and what kind of stuff you're writing about, like you were saying. That's
what I was gonna say though. Like, is it any different, Collidescope versus Polynomials? Because I mean, Jack is in both of them, and Jack is like so much younger than me. It's crazy.
With Polynomials, I mean, Polynomials is my band. So in the last couple of months, and I would say the last half year, I've pushed them more than I've ever have in my entire career with them. That also means that I have to be more open-minded with their ideas. Because if I'm going to give them a more complex arrangement, right, it means that I trust them to do that well. And it also means that if I trust them, I also trust them to have good ideas for it. Because if I'm going to create a complex idea, I can't do it by myself. And I started with a new kind of like concept of shows where it was less songs, longer songs, and seeing if we could keep the audience's attention for as long as we could. Because I feel like we'd come to the point where we were able to play music well enough together that it was convicting for 10 minutes and not just like after 5 minutes, just like they're playing the same thing over and over again. And that required me to be able to talk to them about it. And that was the first time that I was like, okay guys, what do you think? After we ran a song. And with Collidescope, it was always a team effort. I think we always went to that knowing that it was a team effort, and that's kind of, it made it hard to kind of switch between the two, because when it came to time for the Polynomials, I had to lean more on myself and my intuition.
Has it gotten easier or more difficult, would you say, in Collidescope's case when it comes to working together? Because I mean, how long were you guys together before our first Brookfest?
We were together almost a year.
Oh, okay. So you have like enough time. Yeah. So has it gotten easier or more difficult, like as time goes on?
I think the graph would go like this, and then it went like this.
Sure.
You know, like, you know, there was definitely a point that we hit max. I hope we've hit max like hard, but it's definitely so much easier now because everybody understands their role in the band. There was some stuff that we had to talk through, and some stuff that, you know, I think some landmines that we just like avoided. Like, for example, like Alex being away in Boston.
Right.
That was hard for us when we were making the album, because and he had a lot of grace for that. He was like, I know I'm away, so therefore I'm gonna let you guys kind of do your thing, and I'll step in with whatever you guys want me to. And that was something that was really, really helpful. I think I admired him a lot for that, for sure. Right. So that band taught me a lot about working not just with people, but for people. Because in the very beginning, the concept was working for Julia, right? And making her songs the best that we could, and helping her and supporting her in the ways where in the places that she isn't as strong. And I think that definitely was really interesting for us to figure out, and I think it helped me become a better producer.
Right. I'm looking forward to seeing what 2026 holds for the Julia Miranda band, because I know the Kaleidoscope her. I'm curious to see what the Julia is. You know what I mean? Because we haven't really worked so much. It's just been live shows. Like what I always say is we're the seasoning on the food that she already makes. Like we're just kind of there to elevate it. And I do almost prefer it that way. I feel like there's less of a margin for like huge creative disagreements. What I like to say is if you're in a cooking household, like everyone knows if there's too many people in the kitchen, like you know, sometimes you're just like, man, get out. you know.
I mean that's with Kaleidoscope a lot, and I think it's cool because she got so used to, I think, compromising, and I appreciate her so much for that, and we all had to in our own way. But now that she's back into this world of this is my music and what I can do with that, I think it's gonna be really cool to see what she can do with that.
Has it been tough to remain consistent when the Polynomials is your project? Because if you look at Kaleidoscope, it's an equal effort, I guess, creatively. But when it is your project, there's more of a responsibility on your end.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, I think what I would say about it is that the Polynomials has always come from here. And I'm not saying that like the other projects did, but I think the other projects I had to use my brain a lot more because I had to make sure that, you know, I had to like, I think, really put my time into it and intentionally put my time into it is what I'm trying to say. So with the Polynomials, it was always like it's coming from me, from a place, from my experiences, and when I see a show, I want to put that show into, and I want to put parts of that I really enjoy into my own show. So I'm always having ideas, and I feel like it's cool because it's easier in the sense that all my ideas will fly because it's my band and my project. The hard part is just, I think, when it's time to do shows, getting back into that mode of like, this is my project. But I think as long as I have time to prepare for the show, I have my week where I just kind of sit around and I study concerts and I'm like, what do I want the show to look like? And if I have enough time to think about it, I can kind of, it's like riding a bike. I can get back and naturally do it. So
one thing that I was thinking about on the train here, we're going to have like Long Island and Queens heads coming who've never heard of the Polynomials before. What do you want them to walk away with after they see your set?
I think something that you've been talking about too is just like a well thought out show. You know, it's not just a set of songs. Like, here's my songs. It's like from beginning to end. And I think I really started honing into this after like last year where I had less shows to do. So every show had to count. You know, when you start doing a show every week and a show every month and it just keeps going, it's just like, all right, same set. Every show that I had last year was like, it was like, oh, okay, guys, buckle into the Polynomial show. Let's make it count. We don't know when we'll get the next one, kind of thing. Because I was working on so many other things last year. So, I hope that they walk away with a sense of like, this guy thought out his show. This guy was telling a story more than the music. And also, they looked like they were having fun telling the story. You know, hopefully our conviction to how much we love our music brings them back for another show in the future. For sure.
That's why I'm looking forward to Merc Lounge too, because I mean, we're no stranger to like sticking out on a bill. You know what I mean? So like, people who are there for Koi or people who are there for the Polynomials, they're gonna see Razabel and think, what the hell is going on? But it's like, I always say, if anyone can walk away, like even bobbing their head to one song out of our set, I'll be happy. You know? So I look forward to that. I always treat it like a good challenge.
For sure.
Who's an artist, local or big, changed the way that you think about things?
Oh man, that's a good question. So I think that the story kind of thing and the every time that I've been to this artist's show and I've walked away thinking they thought out their set and they knew exactly what they were doing is a band called Laundry Day. And I think people, you know, they blew up on TikTok for being funny and for singing harmonies and stuff, but they have a really good show, a really fantastic show. And they inspire me so much because they came from just New York City as a high school band, same place as we came from. I think something that really inspires me about them is that every time I go to a show, I'm like, that was a story the whole way through. So that really inspired me in that kind of sense. I think there's a lot of local musicians that have inspired me in the way that I think about my work, not just bands. You know, people like Vinya Chabra, right, for example,
Yeah.
someone I've worked extensively with in the Kids Rock for Kids house band last year. Just about stage presence, right? Your stage presence is contagious, whether you have one or not. If you're standing on stage and you're just like there, that's contagious. You know, if you're jumping around and having the time of your life, that's contagious.
Yeah.
You know, so we had a lot of conversations about that, and that inspired me a lot for sure. But what about you? What's a band that you're kind of...
There's a lot of things that you've told me that have stuck with me. Actually, I just dropped in the Razabel group chat the other day. Ian Sue once told me being in a band is like being in a marriage, for better or for worse. That one has stuck with me. But
That's gonna be on the headlines tomorrow.
there's a band from Bayside, Part-Time Action. We've played
Okay.
with them a few times.
Right.
They were at the Bridge and Tunnel show.
All right.
They're almost the same thing, where I guess musically they all come from different spots. Their frontman Max, he's a little bit older.
Yeah.
They're not going to be together forever, right? And like they all know that.
Yeah.
But in their minds, they're all going to go on and like do great things. And I admire that because it's like, even though they know the band's not going to be around together forever, they give it their all.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
And I respect that. Like, work ethic is something that I take really seriously,
Yeah.
especially in a person. Like, your work ethic tells me a lot about you. So that alone.
Well, to kind of wrap things up, and again, thank you so much for coming
for
in
sure.
here, and I'm really excited for the show that's coming up. It's going to be an
Likewise.
amazing time. But what would you tell yourself 2 years ago?
Oh.
Like, people always say like 5-10 years ago, or
Yeah.
like it, you know, whatever. But
I'd probably just keep fighting, keep going forward. You know, I mean, there's been so much hardship in my life, but everyone always keeps moving forward at the end of the day. I wake up every day and I put my all into Razabel. I put my all into my creative endeavors. It served me well so far, 24 years into my life, and I know for a fact it's going to serve me well for another 24 and another 24 after that. But what about you?
I had like the pretentious answer, and I had like a normal answer. The normal answer is like the normal answer is, don't think of what you're doing as nothing. Everything that you're doing will matter to what you've built now. And even when you've hit a place that feels like you're back to square one, or you're kind of plateauing, you're only going up. There's no, we're going back here and we're back here. You know, you're always moving forward. No matter what you're doing, no matter how small. Like if you go back to playing a street fair, great, you know, like that's awesome. Like you're still moving forward. It's not like you failed and went downwards. That's all I would say. Like everything is always upwards.
Yeah.
And then the pretentious answer is, I wouldn't tell myself anything because he wouldn't listen to me.
Fair enough.
You know, I think I said that in a couple interviews before, but like I think that if a 30-year-old me came to me right now and be like, don't do this, I'll be like,
Sure.
don't play the Mercury Lounge show. You will regret it. I'll be like, I'm playing the Mercury Lounge show.
Okay, Gramps, I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but John Segreto, thank you so much for coming in
Thank you
and
for
speaking
having
about
me.
your band. And Coy, who couldn't be here today, we are excited to play a show with you.
Yes.
Thank you again.
Thank you for
And
having me.
We'll see you at Mercury Lounge.
Merc Lounge.